Hello, welcome to today's HR Huddle. I am Tamera Loerzel and I am here with Carrie Steffen. She is the president and co-founder of the Whetstone Group. Thank you for being with me, Carrie.
Thanks for having me. I'm super excited to be here.
Yes. Carrie and I co-facilitate some of our leadership programs, and she's done some coaching for our leadership programs. And as we were talking, we were discussing one of the topics we often bring forward to young leaders is the idea of internal networking. And we do it both from a business development perspective, like we talk about networking and social media and building referral sources, but often people forget their internal network. And we always should start with those closest to us or warmest to us. But we also talk about it from a career progression and career growth perspective, and creating that visibility and those relationships with others in the firm, with managers, partners, especially outside of their typical maybe industry segment or their typical service line or office. They might have closer relationships with that group, but even sometimes if it's a larger group, they aren't always well connected. And so we thought we would bring that forward in the topic today and talk about just some strategies that we teach to help young people get comfortable reaching out and doing internal networking, but then also maybe some ideas on how you as HR professionals, or those of you that are responsible for talent and maybe promotions and career progression, can help promote this as well and encourage it in your firm. So that's what we're going to discuss today. And Carrie, I don't know if there's a place you want to start. Is there anything that comes to mind as I do the setup there? Any place that you want to start?
I think for HR professionals who are trying to figure out their role in helping to be supportive of this, just reminding folks that they can remind people inside of their firm of the importance of this. Because I think for younger practitioners, especially like some of the folks that you and I work with in some of those programs that you were mentioning, it seems like early in one's career in public accounting, there's a lot of leaning into like technical performance, right? And the idea that if I just do my work really well and I keep my head down and I take on the responsibilities of whatever my role is, that's enough to get me ahead, that's enough to help me progress. And I think what we've all discovered in the last decade or so is that the folks that are able to move themselves along that career path with intention and at a faster pace are the ones that also recognize that it's performance that's not enough, but the relationships also matter. And I think that HR folks can be really supportive of people internally and reminding them that, hey, you've mastered all of these technical skill sets that we've asked you to, but let's not forget about relationships. So let's talk about what that looks like. And helping the people who are coaching as career mentors and, career development folks that are helping those younger people move along that continuum, reminding them to keep emphasizing that so that it's not all about technical performance.
Yeah, I think that's a really good point. And it could be part of the goal setting process. It could be part of the, career manager check-ins with them. Like, who are you meeting with? Who are you getting to know in the firm? What are you interested in? What do you want to learn? Because they could then make some connections and say, I suggest you talk to Carrie about this topic. And because sometimes I think that's why people don't reach out. They're, a little maybe gun shy. We're all busy. It feels like partners are super busy. Sometimes they don't feel approachable. I think that's the other way that HR professionals can help, is to talk to the leadership team, make yourself available, feel approachable. If they Teams you or they send an email meeting invite wanting to spend 15 minutes with you, take the time and focus on them, make it easy for them, I guess, is probably the message, because it can not feel comfortable, for some. And so we think that's really important. And some of the things, maybe I'll just start a list, Carrie, and then you can jump in and add, well, what do we talk about in these meetings? And so one of the things that we say is, first of all, get to know them. Tell me your story. Tell me about, your progression, your career progression at the firm. What other professional history do you have? What brought you to the firm? Like, that's a great thing just to start out with, so that they can get to know you and they can understand what their journey is. And also you can start to understand the kind of projects and clients that they worked on. So just starting there, just kind of a get to know you. And then, the individual, the team member can also, just share maybe where they went to school and, what intrigued them about the firm. So we could give them some questions to ask, but that's just a great general starting place is, tell me about your journey here and, your career progression. I think young folks are very interested in that, especially those that are trying to figure out how do I progress? What are the options? There's not just one in public accounting. There's lots of options.
Yeah. And I think, along those lines, sort of the next iteration of that kind of conversation is, what do you wish you would have known when you were in my seat?
Yes.
And letting, someone who's been there, done that, maybe reflect back on that a little bit and like, this is the thing that would have really helped me, or this is the area that I would suggest you become involved in or start to build knowledge on. And maybe that's marketing, or maybe it's, befriending the IT person and building a relationship there. And I think that's another point of emphasis, right? That it's not just about building those relationships internally with, your peers and the people above you and below you who are client facing, but a lot of those administrative support people have a different perspective that can be really valuable for someone who is, trying to figure out their place in the firm. And HR professionals know that better than anyone else. They're probably in that category too. So making sure that you're not overlooking those folks, but asking somebody who's been there to kind of reflect on what got them to where they are and what was the thing that was most useful or most helpful, or, who was someone that helped you along the way and what did that person do for you? Like those kinds of things. And I think that just goes a long way. Just demonstrating that interest in somebody else's story, I think goes a long way to building trust and all of those things that we talk about as being really important in career development.
Yep. I agree with all of that. And I do love the question, like, what do you wish you would have known?
Yeah.
What do you wish that somebody would have told you?
Yeah. Well, and I know that's one of the questions that we get really frequently when we start working with people that are just entering partnership, right? The folks that are just entering into that partnership, what should I know? What do you wish you would have known? How do you, navigate from here forward? And so I think that is just a really interesting place. It also, I think, gives you some insight into the other person, not only their story, but also the things that sort of make them tick. And, it helps you know them on a more personal level, I think, which is all about the relationship piece.
It is all about the relationship and the rapport. And that's what creates the stickiness. And we've talked about that on the HR Huddle many times in many ways is, how do we create stickiness with our people? And it is that rapport and that relationship and seeing they're human too, and how they progressed and understanding that. And, it takes a little bit of vulnerability, but, that storytelling is so important. Yeah. I think another place that we really encourage young people to internal network is from a business development perspective, truly networking. But again, it comes from, tell me about your business development journey. How did you become a business developer? What were your concerns or worries? How did you figure out where to network? How did you figure out how to make connections and transition them? Often we get asked, how do I transition from personal to professional? How do I, start to have them be actual referral sources? How do we get comfortable with that? And so there's like a whole series of questions from a business development perspective that they can ask. And again, it can start with, tell me your journey in business development.
Yeah. And I think that's so important, especially for earlier in their career practitioners who are trying to figure out what they want to do with their career. And the idea of focus, we've all been talking about the idea of becoming much more intentional, much more focused about the kinds of opportunities that we work with and the kinds of clients that we want to serve. And it's a great way for younger practitioners to start to figure out what those alternatives are and maybe what they have some passion and aptitude for, maybe start to see someone whose path they want to emulate. And, they'll start to figure that out as they start to do that internal networking, like you mentioned. And I think that that's a really invaluable skill for them to be able to start thinking about that earlier in their career so that they can be on that path from the get-go, as opposed to getting to a certain place. And now I sort of have this idea of where I want to focus, but yet I'm already dragged into these other opportunities that I didn't really know how to say no to early in my career. And so you're in that strange place
Right.
of having to try to figure out where to transition those and all of that. And so I think it can be a challenge. So I like that. I like that a
Yeah.
lot.
And also to learn, especially as you progress to manager, senior manager, to learn how can we help each other? And,
Yeah.
what kind of clients are you serving? What are the problems they're facing? How are you solving them? What kind of
Mhm.
services, do they tend to look for? Because often we don't ask questions of clients because we're not comfortable. We don't know the answers. Now, we teach that also, the art of querying, getting really comfortable asking questions. That's how we get more consultative and advisory. But if I can, again, have somebody tell me the story of the kind of clients you're serving, then I can listen for that. I can get more comfortable
Mhm.
asking questions. And then vice versa, I can share, hey, here's the kinds of clients I'm serving. Here's the ones that really light me up. Or maybe I'm in a specialty kind of service. Maybe I'm, doing, R&D credits, or I'm doing maybe some specialty advisory services or some specialty tax consulting services. I can share that also, because we'll see that people, will, be starting in more specialized services, that idea of focus, and they've got to create that network internally as well. So sharing
Mhm.
that back and forth, but just hearing the kinds of clients that they're serving, and what kind of questions they're asking, what kind of problems are we solving. That's a really great question to ask,
It
to
is a
get
great
into
question.
that.
Yeah, I agree. And, again, thinking back to the HR professionals who might be, tuning into this and trying to figure out what their role is, sometimes HR people have a broader view of what's happening inside of the firm and the different
Mhm.
areas of specialization, and can make those connections for people who don't know where to start. The other thing that I think that they have some really good insight to are for firms that have multiple offices or who have employees who are working remotely,
Yes.
making sure that those folks are also included in that query that you're talking about. So it may be a younger staff person who's physically sitting in an office, but somebody who has that expertise that doesn't physically sit in the office. And so they're not top of mind because I don't see them all the time, or I may not even know who they are if they're not in my department. So HR professionals can bring people together like that just based on the knowledge that they have of the firm as a whole. And I think that that's a really exciting opportunity too.
I do too. And you just made me think of something also. This idea, it's partly remote, but it's also just partly of the idea of shadowing.
Mm,
And
yeah.
we keep encouraging experiential learning and shadowing, and I know HR professionals do as well. And if I have the relationship with a partner, or I have a relationship with a senior manager, we talked about the kind of opportunities I'm looking for. Maybe I want to start getting involved and learning about the sales process or proposal meetings or how those go. If I meet with you, Carrie, you'll be more inclined to say, hey, Tamara, here's an opportunity. You want to jump on a Teams call
Mhm.
with me? Or do you want to go in to the city this week on Thursday and come with me and attend this proposal meeting? Well, it'll be more top of mind. I know that you're interested in. But that remote idea, I think, makes it easier also, because we are identifying, hey, we can just Teams each other in. I can just have you jump on a call if you're available to do that, which I think is super smart. Again, more related we are, the more likely that is going to happen.
Yeah, and what you're saying there too also makes me think of kind of on the back end, again, bringing it back to career path development and sort of advancement within the firm, looking at how you can start to incorporate some of those behaviors into, the career journey, right? Into like mapping what that looks like. And so at this certain level, I think having some influence over a young person's behaviors around internal networking and connecting them with the right people and encouraging them and doing all of those things, and maybe even building some standards in at each of the levels. Like at this level you should know at least two other people in your department that you don't work with directly, and then at this level, so figuring out, and I don't know if you've come across anything like that, or if you've had any experience in working with HR professionals about how to like integrate it into career path and measure it a little bit, because I think maybe some measurement also would be helpful. And again,
Yeah,
it's not enough to just say to your people, go out and do internal networking and start meeting people in your office, but can we give them some specifics that they can get to at each level that will help them understand exactly what the expectation is and what the behaviors are? Because if we can drive the behaviors, the right kinds of behaviors
right,
with enough frequency, we know that the results will follow.
right.
So yeah, I don't know. What's your experience with that?
Well, I don't think it's gotten to be real measurable. I think that
Yeah.
starting with the goal process and identifying what what are you going to do to meet other people in the firm? And making assignments. I like that idea. I do like the idea of incorporating it kind of in our maybe competency model or our career expectations, that this is part of, the relationship building to do and internal networking. We also talk about, with our young leaders that in order to have somebody advocate for you, they have to know you. And so your career manager will know you, your direct supervisor, you'll know you. Maybe the people in your most tight inner circle in the firm will know you, but those outside the firm won't know you. Now, where does that get important? When you want to progress to senior manager, to director, and to partner, and partners have to vote on you. And if they don't know you, they're trusting the word of other partners. And those that have the more visibility, more credibility, and I'm uniquely contributing to the partners. And that's where, how can I help you? What kind of clients are you serving? Or maybe I have a technical expertise, or maybe I have a technology or process expertise. The more partners that know that, the more readily they're going to be able to advocate for you. And it's never too soon to be thinking about that. And, for some, it's like, I don't even know if I want to be partner. Well, that's fine. But as you progress, that becomes important. And so, Carrie, you made me think about that. I know a lot of firms have been developing like a path to partner process or partner and training process. This should absolutely be part of that process and defined in there to create that visibility and create those relationships. It starts to get a little too late at that point, depending on when we're, in the path to partner process, but better late than never. And if they hadn't thought about it, they would have it. And so we encourage the managers in our transformational leadership program, hey, you need to be out there networking so that you can continue to progress. It's a small circle that impacts your career development to start. But as you continue to progress in the firm, it's a bigger and bigger circle, and you need to know that circle.
Yeah, I think that's right. And I think that you could even make an argument from the get-go as part of the onboarding process, at least putting the idea out there, the idea out there that this is an important part of the way our culture functions as a firm, and and beyond having it be this thing that each individual is sort of responsible for. This is just the way that we operate. This is like part of the job description. Yep. And so I think that you could start that as early as the onboarding process, whether it's somebody that's coming in right out of school or whether it's a more experienced hire that's coming from a different sort of internal culture, making it part of the expectation that this is just the way we do business with each other. We get to know each other and we build these relationships, and it's an important part of who we are. I think could be really valuable for a lot of firms as well.
Yep. And that's funny you say that, Carrie, because our orientation checklist, we have meet with partner Tamera, meet with partner Jen, meet with partner Renee, and it's part of their checklist for the onboarding. I mean, it's one of the steps that they have to take, and they schedule the different meetings. And I know it's happening. We just hired Brianna on our team, and she scheduled a check-in meeting with me before the 4th of July holiday, and we have another one scheduled this week. The first one is get to know you, and then it's like, okay, here's some specific topics. I get assigned some specific topics about the firm to tell them about, but it does then become just part of who we are. And maybe even I think this happens for interns. I'm not sure how often, sometimes we do a really good job with interns, and then we forget as we have new staff and, newly promoted
other people. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. But, bring some young partners together and ask partners questions, or give them a topic to talk about. Share their journey. What would some of the questions you said earlier, Carrie, what would you have liked to know as you were progressing, from staff to senior in the firm, or as you were starting your business development journey? We do a business development panel for one of our programs, and the firm has 3 people come, and, we give them some things to talk about, but then, the participants can ask questions, and then they start to get a relationship and follow up. And it becomes easier then to follow up and say, hey, you were talking about this thing. Can we meet and talk more about that? I'm interested in it. So there's lots of ways you can foster those relationships, which are critical.
Yeah, I think so too. And I know you have some experience with this too, but I know there are some firms that actually formalize that in terms of a mentoring program. And so they're actually pairing people up in a mentor-mentee relationship. And I hate to use the word forcing them to build a relationship together, but they're encouraging that, right?
Yes.
They're formalizing it and encouraging it. And, I think it's one of those things that once you get to, you sort of practice how it works and you do it a few times and you start to see the benefits, especially, then I think you seek it out on your own because you understand now the value proposition better than you would have if somebody was just telling you to do that to check a box.
And the beauty is then you get to know different people. You also get to know different personality styles because we kind of make up a partner has to look a certain way, or a business developer has to look a certain way, or, whatever. And we find out that is not true.
Right.
There's probably like a base level knowledge and approach that we have, but how I sell is going to be different than how you sell or how Jen might sell. And so learning that, I think, can set people at ease. I don't have to be in this box. I really can bring my strengths, my style, my personality to it. And that can free people up too.
For sure. I mean, we're all human beings at the end of the day, right?
Yeah.
We're all going to approach things differently. And so we have to embrace that individuality.
Yep. So we hope this gives you some ideas to spark relationship development in your firm and encourage your young people to go out and build relationships, but also encourage your leaders to reach out as well and foster that, be available. We think it's critical. And, it can be kind of hard to get started. But once you get the momentum going, you'll find that people will really just jump on board and gravitate. And if it becomes cultural, like, Carrie said, I think it just becomes, this is how we operate. We are super approachable, and it will create that stickiness in your firm. So we'd love to hear any other ideas you have on this topic. And if you want us to discuss any other future topics, please let us know as always. And Carrie, thank you so much for coming and joining me today. I appreciate it.
Thanks for having me. It's always great to chat with you, Tamera.
All right. Thank you. Have a great week, everybody. We'll see you next week. Bye.